I think, set some foundation and framing for our conversation throughout the day. And this is a topic, adverse childhood experiences. It's a topic that I talk about a lot in the spaces I work in, both at Emory, at Grady, at CHOA, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. And I don't get a lot of opportunity to center Asian Americans in these places that I talk. So I'm really excited today to share some thoughts. I will say on the front end, there isn't a whole lot of literature out there, specifically when it comes to Asian Americans or AAAIs and adverse childhood experiences. So there's some research opportunity we have here. So a lot of what I'll be talking about kind of in the second half of this presentation is more a synergy or summation or extrapolation, if you will, of information from the research, from my own lived experience in this city, in Atlanta, growing up in the South as a racialized minority, and all of observations and current events included. So hopefully it'll pique your interest when we get there. This is a topic that, of all the things I've learned in medicine, nothing has been more impactful to my own practice as a physician, the way I show up with patients. At the same time, nothing has been more impactful for my own health and well-being, how I show up as a partner, as a husband, how I show up as a parent, how I am as a son. And so any chance I get to talk about ACEs, I jump at it, because it's not just about how you show up in your job. This is about how you think about your own life and the experiences that you've gone through and making sense of them. So let's jump in. I have a couple caveats, a couple running themes that I want to offer. So as we move through these slides today, I would love for you to hold some space and think about some questions. What's surprising you? What is inspiring you? And what's moved you? What's touched your heart? I love these questions because this is more than just head knowledge. This is more than just like cognitive information, left brain stuff, rational thinking. The goal in this is to, in a meta kind of way, just be human. And be human in this presentation, which means all of your left and right brains, your mind, body integrated. And so I think these questions kind of help set the tone that way. For any therapists or providers in the room, I want to just say, please rest in this presentation. I think a lot of times we show up to talks and, the way we pay attention is we want to get information out of it. That's going to change the way I practice. But I think the real value in talking about a big topic like ACEs is just be. And this is a reminder for us that fundamentally being human is the starting place that makes the most sense, but that's how we have to show up in these spaces. So more than doing anything, trying to think about how you're going to care for your patient, the next patient you see, I just want to say this is a time for us to kind of check our internal vital signs. All right, lastly, and this is more of like a content trigger warning, when we talk about childhood adversity, we're going to be talking about uncomfortable topics. So I just want to acknowledge that some of this might feel distressing. It is okay if you need to, you can't disrespect me. Like pull out your phone, text, email, or get up, get some water. We have to all, stay regulated as we talk about these difficult topics. So whatever works for you to ground you, please do that. All right, I have an agenda. Just go with me. I don't even know if this is the right agenda. I've adapted these slides. So we'll be talking about a lot of things, from the problem to how this relates specifically to Asian Americans, to a little bit about what we can do. Now, I will say, since I have an hour or so, and I don't know when we started, Ellen, so just like give me a like a sign if you can. Okay, great. I will probably be spending most of the time building a narrative of the problem. And I know that we have later sessions today, like a panel discussion that's focused on the solution. So out of respect for y'all's time and the later events, I won't dig into that section too much. I came across this quote by an activist, Resma Menachem, a few years ago, and I think this quote is such an apt description of how insidious this problem of trauma is. If you can't read it, I'll read it. It says, trauma in a person decontextualized over time looks like personality. Trauma in a family decontextualized over time looks like family traits. Trauma in a people decontextualized over time looks like culture. And the reason this quote hits me is it speaks to when generation after generation of people undergo trauma and they have no support or a lack of support, what we will instinctively do as people, and this is just part of our human nature, is we will adapt. And in that adaptation, we will normalize dysfunction. We will normalize these events. We don't even, and that is not because it is normal, that is because that is how we survive. And so this normalization of trauma is really a representation of our coping response, our coping efforts. And it is not that trauma is okay for anybody. So I think this, to me, really says a lot about what's happened or what's happening in the Asian American community. We are really good at grinning and bearing it, at suppressing. We are really good at normalizing things. Again, not because it's healthy, but because that's what we've had to do to survive. There's also another quote that I have a dad joke where I say it's like from Bob Ross, not the painter, but the pediatrician. And I cannot resist saying that joke every time, so I got it out. You don't have to laugh at it, but I just can't resist. It's like a tick. But this quote I really like as well, and it speaks to the invisibility, but yet the pervasiveness of trauma and adversity. So it said that some years ago, Dr. Ross, as he was the leader of a large foundation in California, he was quoted as saying that of all things that cross his desk, childhood trauma is the #1 public health crisis that is just hidden in plain sight. Trauma is not rare. Adversity is not rare. It is universal, and at the same time, it occurs disproportionately in communities that have often been systematically or systemically marginalized, oppressed, or neglected.